Welcome to lecture number 4 of this course on sustainable strategic management. What we are going to discuss in this session is how to implement sustainability in company operations and at the supply chain level. So it's a very important part of sustainability in business. In the previous lecture we discussed the business case for sustainability and how sustainability contributes to building a competitive advantage in business. Now, today, we discussed how to operationalize sustainability inside organizations. So, let's provide some theory as a background for understanding what is sustainable value chain management. So we will start discussing first what a value chain is, and then we will discuss how to make value chains more sustainable. In this slide, you can see a very popular framework which is called the value chain scheme that has been developed by Michael Porter, a very popular academic from Harvard Business School in the strategy field. Now, what Michael Porter was looking for when he developed this framework was the development of a very basic scheme to represent company processes. So basically his idea was to identify common processes, most common processes that corporates of any kind share in their business operations. Basically, these processes, of course, combine, produce value in the form of products that are profitable products for the company or services. Now, in this framework, Michael Porter identifies a number of processes. Some processes as identified as primary processes, and these primary processes that you can see here include activities related to inbound logistics, activities related to operations or manufacturing, activities related to outbound logistics, and then the processes of marketing and sales and after sales services. This set of processes are identified as primary processes. This means the most important processes companies run in order to produce value, in order to produce products and services. At the same time, there are also some additional processes running in parallel that are essential for creating the conditions of succeeding in the primary processes. These secondary processes are these processes are called secondary processes, and they include procurement activities, technology development in the business, human management of human resources, and management of firm infrastructure. Now, this is a very basic scheme, as you can understand, but it's very helpful because in a very simple ways identifies key processes happening in all corporations. Now, this framework has become very popular in business and management because can be applied in different ways. So, for example, you can use this framework from a performance measurement perspective. So you can identify and develop performance metrics for all these processes. Or you can use this framework for analyzing your costs and so on. So basically, it's a very basic but very powerful scheme. What we are going to do now is try to use this scheme from a sustainability perspective. This means to analyze how processes can become more sustainable. Now, there are some critical elements that are missing in this scheme. This scheme was, developed a number of years ago, more than 2 decades ago now. So it wasn't developed by taking into consideration sustainability as a big phenomenon happening in business. So, for example, the value that is generated by recovering recovery processes, recycling, and so on, is not considered in this framework. And this is, for example, a process that is today common to many businesses. Also, the contribution of stakeholders is not evident in business activities. Now, you know from stakeholders theory, and you know from the previous session, that stakeholders play a big role in developing sustainable strategies. So again, this is something that is not really captured from this framework. Another important aspect is that the way this scheme is designed takes into consideration a material flow which is directional from business to consumers. This means from left to right. Companies get materials, produce products, and commercialize products on the market. Again, this doesn't take into consideration the possibility of recovering these products, recycling the materials, and using these recycled materials as new materials for producing new products. So basically, what I'm suggesting to use for our discussion is a modified version of this framework, where the inputs of where these processes are considered, as well as the role of stakeholders that could support the implementation of more sustainable strategies and more sustainable operations. Now, what are the advantages of this modified version I am suggesting? Basically, you have a bidirectional view of processes because you include the recovery processes that are more valorized in this framework. You take into consideration materials and product life cycle extension, which is an important aspect from a sustainability perspective. And as I said, you consider stakeholders' engagement. Now, what sustainable operations means? Sustainable operations means analyzing all these processes that contribute to value creation and basically make them more sustainable. This means we should, for example, analyze inbound logistics and try to understand how we can change these processes in a more sustainable way. we should analyze marketing processes and understand how we can change these processes in order that they become more sustainable. As previously explained, when the definition we use of sustainability is in reference to the triple bottom line of business. This means these processes should become economically sustainable, environmentally sustainable, and socially sustainable. So addressing the three dimensions of sustainability. So let's start analyzing these processes and what can be done to make them more sustainable. First, in the area of inbound logistics, and this is very, of course, similar to outbound logistics, addressing sustainability means analyzing these processes on the light of the triple bottom line. So, for example, from a business perspective, in order to make the process economically sustainable, you want to reduce your cost of inbound logistics. This, for example, could call for a network approach to business. So you might, for example, develop partnerships with companies located close to you and organize combined delivery of materials. In this way, you could reduce the cost of transportation and the cost of inbound logistics. A common problem related to logistics is that having a lot of trucks coming and going from your factory produces noise, and this could be a problem if the area you are located is a residential area. So again, you might consider to develop or reorganize your processes in a way to try to reduce this problem of noise that often becomes a social problem. Last, there is the environmental aspect. Basically, inbound logistics call for the use of different transportation systems. You might, for example, consider the use of electric vehicles to reduce your carbon emissions, or more specifically, the carbon emissions associated to these processes. So these are just some basic examples. Of course, there are many others of interventions businesses can do in order to make inbound logistics more sustainable. What sustainability means in terms of operations, in terms of manufacturing? Basically, sustainability in manufacturing calls for a number of things, including, of course, minimization of product wastes, minimization of materials that are used, utilization of sustainable materials, so for example recycled materials, reduction of energy consumption, and of course, if it's possible, use of renewable energies for production, reduction of packaging requirements and the use of recycled materials for packaging, and also a different approach to product design. So, for example, a design that take into consideration what happens at the end of the life cycle. So, for example, planning for the disassembly and recovery of materials. Of course, this is a very vast area. A lot of activities can be carried out in order to transform operations. What is important to understand is that implementing sustainability in manufacturing in your operations is really is really about optimization of your processes. So often you can create win-win situations where you don't, even if you do investments, actually you are gonna improve your processes in a way that besides, for example, a positive environmental performance, you are also saving on costs. There are many popular case studies you can look for exploring what corporates have done in this field. For example, reported here in this slide that 3M that by developing, basically redesigning its operations and manufacturing activities, was able to achieve important savings on the cost of manufacturing while reducing significantly the carbon emissions, the wastes generated, and the energy consumption in its factories. So this is is an example. As I said, there are others you can look at. What sustainability means in terms of outbound logistics. So this means the logistics you use for moving products from your factory to customers. It's really about rethinking in that case packaging and transportation systems. In the last lecture, we discussed an example related to Kellogg's, what they did in order to transform the packaging of their products, and they gained both. They were able to lower the carbon emissions associated to logistics, as well as saving money for this activity. And today, a lot of corporations are really engaged on rethinking their packaging for these reasons. So, packaging dimension, minimization of materials used, again, utilization of sustainable materials, recycled materials, and also, planning for the recovery and reuse of materials that are used in logistics. A great example, another example in addition to the one of Kellogg's we discussed, is, for example, Apple computers. They pushed a lot the packaging redesign in the last model of the MacBook, and basically they were able to develop a packaging that was 41% less in volume than the previous one, resulting in 25% more units per shipping container. This means saving 25% on the cost of logistics and saving 25% on carbon emissions associated to the logistics of your products. Marketing. Now, basically, how to rethink marketing processes, and the role of marketing is very important in this sustainability discussion. Why? Because basically there are two perspectives of the problem. First of all, sustainability is something new. Developing sustainable products and sustainable services calls for a new approach to marketing. So there are new skills, new strategies, new approaches that need to be developed. At the same time, marketing is a process itself. So there are a lot of activities related to marketing products. So you can basically work as a corporate to reduce the impacts of these activities. So for example, for instance, the organization of an exhibition for promoting, for marketing your products is something where energy is used, materials are used, brochures are created, and so on. You can basically organize that activity or try to organize it in a more sustainable way. That is what sustainable marketing is about. Now, there is also another aspect that we need to discuss here, that is the fact if sustainability sell. You will recall that in the last lecture we discussed that the main reason why corporates engage with sustainability is the fact of improving, of strengthening their brand. So basically, today corporates need to be perceived as sustainable in the market, and especially in some specific industries, there is evidence that products or services that are characterized as being sustainable, for example, organic products in the food industry, in the food market, might present, in some cases, a superior performance than traditional products. When we discuss sustainability at the product level, of course, it's important to understand how do you measure sustainability. And in the world today, in different, in different regions, there are a lot of certifications that have been developed to measure and report the sustainability of products, particularly in terms of labels. So, for example, you have specific labels in Europe and in the US for certifying organic products. You have labels like the Energy Star for certifying the energy performance of products, and so on. So these labels are playing and will play in the future an important role to disclose sustainability information of products. Another important aspect that is mentioned here in the slide is the impact of commercial activities. A lot of corporates use agents and promoters to market their products around. This means, for example, having a lot of people moving by car or by airplane or by train to do the commercial activity. Again, this basically creates an environmental impact that is driven by this transportation activity. So corporates can try to rethink these processes in a way to reorganize them in a more sustainable manner. Another process that is part of the value chain scheme and corporates do analyze is after sales. Now, after sales are becoming more important in the sustainability discussion, because often after sale units are the one responsible for collecting products at the end of the life in order to recover, reassembly and recycle them. So basically there is a new role, really a new job that is part of this unit, part of these units, part of these processes. Basically, there is a popular term that identifies these activities. That is the term of closed loops supply chains. What this means? This means that you not only have supply chains for developing products, but you also have a supply chain made by different actors that collect the products at the end of the life, disassemble them, recover materials, recycle these materials, and basically bring back these materials to the production sites for developing new products. So basically you have two supply chains working in parallel in different and presenting a different and opposite flow of materials. And basically the connection is typically the after sales unit. They are the ones collecting the products at the end of the life and basically governing this reverse supply chain. Again, there are many examples of companies that activated this kind of closed loop supply chains in order to recover products at the end of the life. A good example is again the example of Apple, because they, for example, offer a 10% discount on iPods if when you purchase one you bring back the old one. What happens at that point is that they disassemble the old iPod, they recover the materials, and most of these materials are reused to manufacture new iPods. So you see how the reverse supply chain works, creating a loop, a closed loop supply chain. Now, basically, the possibility of recovering and reusing materials from products at the end of their life is really strictly connected to how they have been designed. Especially in order to, in order to make these processes cost effective, you really want to facilitate disassembly and recovery. This is important because in order to be able to establish these recovery and recycling processes, often companies need to redesign their products in order to plan for that. A good example is the company Caterpillar. They really placed a lot of effort to redesign their machines in order to prepare them for disassembly and the recovery of materials at the end of the life. Recycling. Recycling is really about the prevention of wastes and try to limit the use of new virgin materials. What is interesting is that often recycling activities are not made by the same company, but are carried out by external suppliers that do the recycling for you. This is important because when big corporations establish recycling activities, often they really create new industries. So there is also a social component of recycling. You are creating new economic activities. You are creating new job opportunities. There is a company, for example, that really developed a business model around this. Is a company called CSC. It's a small company based in Italy. And basically they produce concrete by using as inert materials recycled electric cables, and in this way they save on traditional inert materials. They are very cost competitive, and they also use a waste that is coming from another industry. Stakeholders. Stakeholders, as we said, play a big role in discussing sustainability today. Companies have, of course, a variety of stakeholders. They include suppliers, employees, business partners, legislators, customers, and so on. And basically, all these stakeholders need to be engaged in the sustainability journey in order to benefit from their possible support as well as meet their expectations that of course differ from stakeholder to stakeholder. First of all, it's very important to note that there is a general call for transparency. So, for example, investors want transparency on business activities, on environmental performance of companies, on the social impacts of business decisions, and also on the risk associated to business activities. So this is, is what is the expectation, the request coming from investors. Suppliers can play, for example, a big role in redesigning products, in pushing innovation on materials, in recycling activities, and so on. Partners, again, recycling, recovery, innovation, sustainability consultancy. You might not have these skills in-house, and basically you can access the skills you need through partners. Legislators, of course, they play a role in this. Many industries basically have a very rigid regulations in terms of labor practices, in terms of environmental legislations, and so on. So legislators are today a big, an important stakeholder in business. Employees, of course, are key to implement sustainable strategies inside an organization. You don't want, of course, them to be a barrier to the implementation of these kind of changes, but actually you want to leverage on employees to implement successfully sustainability strategies. And of course, customers. Customers play a very important role in sustainability because customers with purchasing decisions, of course, can influence markets. So, as a customer, if you purchase a traditional product or, for example, an organic product, that decision is could favor certain industries, certain companies in respect of others, and therefore it favors the development of sustainability markets or not. Now we are discussing the secondary processes, so for example the infrastructures. Now, of course, there is a lot to do in terms of improving the sustainability of infrastructures. This is really about designing them in the proper way and in managing them in the proper way. As you know, what are called the green buildings have become very popular in the recent years. Green buildings are buildings that are very efficient buildings in terms of energy consumption, in terms of the materials that are used, in terms of waste is produced, in terms of the way they are constructed, and so on. So green buildings are today an important part of the construction industry, and is a part of the market that is really driven by sustainability principles. Also, is important to manage your infrastructure in a sustainable way. This is typically called in business facility management, and again there are a lot of practices today that can be used in order to improve the sustainability of your infrastructures from a management perspective. Human resources. Of course, employees are important in this discussion. If employees engage with sustainability, there is proof that There is also a gain in terms of productivity. What is very important is, of course, education and training on sustainability in the workplace, and this is, is important to drive any change initiative, including sustainability programs. And of course, technology. Now, we discussed in the second lecture, the new technologies that are emerging, that will shape the future, that have, that can bring benefits in terms of, more sustainable solutions. What is important to understand is that, of course, the technology will help addressing many sustainability problems. But we don't have to rely exclusively on technology, because sustainability is not a technology problem. Sustainability calls for an integrated approach, and part of this approach is about rethinking technologies we use in order to develop more efficient, sustainable operations and processes. Procurement is a very important area. It's typically one of the first actions established by corporations in order to become more sustainable. What this means? This means that all corporations purchase a lot of materials. They can try to change procurement activities in a way to become more sustainable. For example, purchasing products that have environmental certifications, purchasing products from suppliers that are quality and environmentally certified. So basically, you can again push a market for sustainable products. This is also implemented by governments. The typical term that is used in the government environment is green public procurement. This means that in your purchasing criteria, you introduce sustainability criteria. So, for example, environmental performance of products or environmental performance of suppliers as a criteria for the purchasing process. Now, there is an interesting video that we are going to watch. Is the case of Pfizer and how basically Pfizer has developed a sustainability journey and embedded sustainability into its business operations.
As the world's leading biopharmaceutical company, Pfizer applies science and global resources to improve health and well-being for people and animals at every stage of life. Each day, Pfizer's colleagues seek to advance wellness, prevention, treatments, and cures that challenge the most feared diseases of our time, working together for a healthier world. With its eminent status as a global industry leader, Pfizer recognizes its crucial role in environmental stewardship, taking major strides in energy efficiency, reducing its carbon footprint, driving out waste, and creating cleaner processing of medicines. Pfizer is on a green journey, a journey that will impact people, science, and the planet we live on.
Pfizer is on a green journey, and it begins with me. In addition to my role as the leader for primary care and oncology manufacturing operations, I'm also the chairperson for Pfizer's Environmental Sustainability Council. Our company's primary focus is to discover, develop, and deliver new medicines to patients and customers across the globe. Yet we recognize that how we do our work matters just as much as what we deliver. To realize our mission, we directly involve our colleagues and our stakeholders in improving global access to medicines, engaging in responsible business practices, and enhancing environmental sustainability. By taking a strong interest in environmental sustainability, our world is changing for the better, and we want to be part of that positive change. Pfizer colleagues are on a green journey with many successes already to further motivate us to continue. Let's now turn to one of our sites, Freiburg, where we charted a green course for today and for the future, for a healthier, more sustainable world.
Freiburg is said to be one of Germany's sunniest and greenest cities. Incorporated in the 12th century, Freiburg, which borders the Black Forest, is considered an intellectual and commercial epicenter. Freiburg is also the site of Pfizer's award-winning facility that stands as a testament to its commitment to the environment, one of the most advanced facilities of its kind.
Here at Freiburg, we produce medicine that combat cardiovascular diseases and help to treat pain, epilepsy and cancer. Since 1990, we have implemented a comprehensive energy-saving program which vigorously protects the environment and conserves resources. By executing this, what we call our Energy Master Plan, we have blazed a trail with regard to usage of renewable energies for others to follow in the pharmaceutical industry, but even far beyond. Specifically, the Freiburg site is seen as a beacon in the use of renewable energy. The many elements of our green strategy has earned worldwide recognition. Our Energy Master Plan is set up of many different elements, starting with a comprehensive energy management program through more advanced green manufacturing processes and more sustainable packaging.
Pfizer has adopted the principle of green chemistry from discovery to development to manufacturing. So when we at Pfizer Freiburg talk about eco-friendly manufacturing of products, we talk about less energy consumption, we reduce the water use, and we minimize the waste. So one very good example for this is the production of Lyrica. Looking at some data back from October 2010 and the improvements that were done in the synthesis, in the manufacturing and in the distribution, we could see a reduce of the carbon dioxide emission of 88,000 tons. And this is equivalent like when you take 26,000 cars off the road. In addition to this, we recycle more than 90% of our solvents. The API, the active pharmaceutical ingredient, is manufactured at the Pfizer Tua site in Singapore, and they are using so-called leading-edge processes or state-of-the-art processes. And with these techniques, we can minimize the chemical use compared to traditional methods. Once the API is manufactured and released, it is shipped over to Freiburg. So greener medicine also needs greener packaging. Pfizer is seeking for better ways to use the resources of packaging for our products. Less packaging weight, for example, means lower shipping load and therefore less fuel consumption. But what about the facility where we manufacture many of our products, such as Lyrica? One of the secrets of eco-friendly heat and air conditioning, which is a big part in the manufacturing of pharmaceutical products, is efficiency. So modern use systems using innovative technologies have replaced old models, and the heat, cold and compressed air is now provided much more efficiently using less energy. So Pfizer Freiburg, we are using new modular cooling system for air and process cooling, and this brings the electricity consumption down by 1/3. And the new recovery ventilation system even brought the electricity consumption down by half. We decommissioned 2 of our steam boilers and replaced them by wood pellet fire or biomass boiler. And this is Europe's largest pellet heating system, by the way. And this helps us to reduce our carbon footprint by several thousand tons, plus energy cost savings of several thousand euros a year.
The energy supply chain for the heating system is a sustainable closed loop. Pfizer supports the domestic timber industry by sourcing pellets from local plants in the Black Forest that share more eco-friendly manufacturing practices. The factory converts the biomass into pellets. Pfizer's Freiburg plant employs additional green technologies, including hydro and geothermal power. These technologies help conserve more than 4 million kilowatt hours of energy annually and reduce carbon dioxide emitted by the plant by up to 12,000 tons.
The Freiburg Green Journey sets some very aggressive goals with regard to carbon neutrality and renewable energies. This year, the site will cover more than 95% of all used energy by renewable sources. And in a couple of years, we will be carbon neutral. To approach all of that, Freiburg colleagues are on a never-ending quest with regard to operational excellence. People help and support each other. We are discussing new and innovative ideas, and we implement positive change. By doing all of that, we do not only protect the environment, but we make our company much more competitive.
Pfizer has emerged among the world's leaders in the application of green chemistry principles by finding innovative ways to lessen environmental impact during the discovery and manufacture of our medicines. The company's commitment to green chemistry contributes to a better environment and is recognized by others as leading the way to a greener future. Pfizer's green journey continues at its La Jolla, California R&D campus, where the greening of Lyrica began. Here, colleagues leverage scientific innovation and technologies and discovery of new medicines to fight cancer. Pfizer's challenge to advance these scientific innovations while applying principles of green chemistry. Let's learn more about the nexus between science, innovation, and reducing environmental impact.
So what is green chemistry? Green chemistry is the design of efficient chemical processes that we use to make medicines. Typically, this involves the use of less hazardous substances and results in the production of much less waste. Often, we also use less energy to make our medicines. Green chemistry also involves innovative science, and here at La Jolla, where we have a main R&D campus, we apply the principles of green chemistry in the design of medicines for the future. Pfizer's commitment involves integrating the green chemistry principles into our R&D operations. Also involves manufacturing our products using the principles of green chemistry and educating scientists and engineers in order that the principles of green chemistry can be applied now and into the future.
So one of the things that I do every day as a chemist is apply the principles of green chemistry to my work. Things like eliminating hazardous reagents, using renewable feedstocks, or preventing waste. One of the ways that we prevent waste on a daily basis here that kind of shows the impact of things on scale is test tubes that we use every day. We could use anywhere from 50 to 100 test tubes each every day, and with a large number of chemists, 50 to 100, then you're talking about a large volume of test tubes. One of the things that we've done is found a way to reuse those test tubes, wash them and reuse them instead of putting them out as waste as we had previously, and that eliminates 2 cubic yards of waste from being sent out on a monthly basis. So that's just one example of how a small change can have a large impact here at Pfizer La Jolla. Pregabalin is the active ingredient in Lyrica, a medicine developed using greener chemistry applied here in La Jolla. The process uses nature's own catalyst, an enzyme, eliminating the use of chemical catalyst. Additionally, all 4 chemical reactions used to make pregabalin are carried out in water, which greatly reduces the use of carbon-based solvents and carbon dioxide emissions. We have calculated that between 2007 and 2020, the enzymatic process for Lyrica will eliminate around 3 million metric tons of CO2 emissions. That is the equivalent of taking more than 500,000 US cars off the road for a whole year.
So as you've heard from others, every little thing we do makes a big difference. Take, for example, this 240 kilowatt solar photovoltaic installation here on the roof of one of our campus buildings. This system, since it was installed in 2007, has generated 1.7 million kilowatt hours of electricity. It services about 25% of the building's electrical needs, and in turn, we have avoided the emission of about 2.3 million pounds of carbon dioxide gas. As Aristotle once observed, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, and we try to put that into action every day at Pfizer. Here on the Pfizer La Jolla campus, we try to engage every single employee, contractor, and visitor every day to help us reduce our environmental footprint and help us on our green journey by doing things like recycling, adhering to the principles of green chemistry, and perhaps even biking to work instead of driving their cars. The green journey at Pfizer is all about that. We're reducing our environmental footprint while we discover and develop new medicines for patients. And the green journey at Pfizer, as we all know, it starts with me.
At Pfizer, we're very proud of our green chemistry program and the benefits it brings. More efficient processes, using less hazardous materials, generating less waste, and consuming less energy. We're all affected by global, regional and local environmental issues. And at Pfizer, our commitment to green chemistry is one tangible measure that we take to reduce our impact on the environment. We understand at Pfizer that a healthy environment is consistent with our purpose of working together for a healthier world.
Because of Pfizer's extensive scale, its green journey will be a long continuing endeavor. However, by working together for a healthier world and developing and manufacturing medicines that help control disease with technologies that have less impact on the Earth's air, water, and natural resources, we may all benefit from this expedition. To learn more about Pfizer, its products, and environmental initiatives, log on to Pfizer.com.
Here in this section, I'm going to rely on the findings of a recent research that was published by Green Research. Green Research is an American organization doing a lot of studies on the impacts of sustainability in business environments. And basically they developed a couple of years ago a study based on Fortune 500 companies where they analyzed what kind of organizations corporates are implementing in order to meet the call for sustainability. Now, what is first of all the macro aspects of the problem? What are the key findings of this research? First of all, the first finding was the fact that most of the times sustainability teams are organized in public affairs or marketing departments units, and this is it makes a lot of sense because we previously said that a big part of sustainability, one of the key reasons is basically to empower marketing activities. The second interesting finding is related to budget issues. Particularly, it was found that sustainability executives do have their own budgets, but also they basically influence other budgets coming from other parts of the organization. So, for example, while working on manufacturing issues, the budget for sustainability projects will most likely come from the manufacturing budget, not from the sustainability budget. And this is, of course, something important. So sustainability managers, sustainability executives need to be able to negotiate with other line managers to develop, to prepare the necessary budgets for sustainability initiatives. Also, what it was found from this research is that the companies frame and embed sustainability in their journey in different ways, and this is is really dependent of the industry, is dependent of the vision and values of the organization. Now let's try to understand what kind of responsibilities have different people inside the organization. So let's start from the responsibility of executives. Of course, executives play an important role because define the strategy for sustainability. So they are the ones together with sustainability managers defining what is going to be the journey that the company, the organization is going to do in order to become more sustainable. Also, another important role played by executives is to coordinate the execution of sustainability strategies. Is their role to set and communicate objectives at the base of the sustainability projects, and also they are the ones coordinating sustainability reporting activities. Being executives, they also have the role to facilitate and drive change management associated to sustainability. So substantially to support teams and generally speaking the organization in overcoming the barriers to sustainability. They are the ones often acting as project champions. This means selling the project, selling the business case in the organization for sustainability. And also they are the ones creating the necessary network of partnerships to support sustainability initiatives. So for example, they are the ones interacting and involving sustainability experts or NGOs in sustainability projects. What are the characteristics and the role of sustainability teams? Sustainability teams are typically very small. In a large organization, in most of Fortune 500 companies, sustainability teams are made by 1, 2, 3, 4 people. The maximum you could find in a large organization is really 6 people dedicated to sustainability. They typically come from an economic or a background, or a background in environmental engineering, environmental science, or sustainability, and they are really the ones that are going to lead these initiatives. So are the ones that are going to negotiate on targets and resources with the top management, the top executives, and are the ones that are going to work with the other managers in the organization to change processes in a more sustainable way and implement new strategies. Also, who is basically managing reporting? Typically, the unit is public affairs, followed by supply chain, legal, marketing, operations people. And this is again, it gives an idea also of the complexity of the reporting activity in a corporate environment. This was an interesting finding of the research. At a certain point, Green Research investigated major spending categories in Fortune 500 companies in relation to sustainability projects, and the breakdown of costs highlighted in the first position the cost of consulting. What this means? This means that large organizations do not have the right skills, the necessary skills to define and implement sustainability projects in-house, and because of that need to engage with consultancy firms and experts to develop in their sustainability journey. So consulting is actually an industry. Consulting in sustainability is an industry that is developing very fast. We already discussed how basically executives seek to leverage small budgets with big influence. So they try to rely on the existing budgets of other line managers in order to develop sustainability initiatives. So basically there is a dedicated budget allocated to the sustainability team, but there are parts of other budgets that are used for developing and implementing sustainability projects. This also calls for a diverse approach to business. This is a clear implementing a sustainability journey is a big change. So you need to approach business and to approach processes in a different way with a different mindset. Now, something that is essential in order to implement successfully sustainability projects is the definition of your goals. So what is very important is to define clearly what are the issues you are addressing, what are the targets, what is the timeline for achieving the target, and what is the starting point. This is very important, this is clarity, this is a level of transparency, and when you analyze sustainability reports developed by companies, you really see the difference from reports that are really well prepared, where this information on objectives is very clear, from reports that are poorly organized, where targets and activities are defined and reported in a very weak way. Now, how do you set targets? Do you have a top-down or a bottom-up approach to that? Actually, you can do both. Often is a combination of the two approaches that is used in setting sustainability goals. And of course, in setting targets, you want to be realistic. So it's also important to benchmark with other players in the same industry or in different industries. What is the timeline for sustainability projects? Of course, developing a sustainability journey is something really in the long term. So what you want to do is to balance long-term objectives with short-term objectives. So basically, actions and goals that target an horizon of 10 years or more are defined as a part of a vision in business. When you define plans that basically have a timeline of 3 to 5 years, these are really clear strategic goals. When you define targets that refer to months or a 1 or 2 years horizon, they are operating plans. So basically you implement sustainability at different levels and you establish goals both in the short and long term. Now, of course, is also important, to balance these approaches. There is evidence that most of the times large corporations define goals on an annual basis, and then based on the performance, they revise these goals on a semester basis. Senior management executives, of course, are involved in reviewing sustainability performance. Typically, this is carried out. This review process in large companies is carried out in a quarterly basis. Now, let's discuss another important aspect of sustainability, sustainability in terms of operations and sustainability in terms of supply chains. That is the rethinking of industrial systems. This means really redesigning activities from a system perspective in a different way, so as to create a system, an industrial model that is more sustainable in the long term. So this is really about rethinking the business models at the base of industrial activities. Here in the UK, there is a leading university in this discussion, is the University of Cambridge, particularly the Institute for Manufacturing, and they carry out a lot of research on business models for industrial sustainability, and recently they published a paper that you have cited in this slide that basically highlights different business models that can be used to plan industrial activities. And of course, these business models for sustainability take into consideration different perspectives. Let me give you some examples so you can understand better what a business model for industrial sustainability means. I'm going to present you 3 cases of 3 Italian companies that have developed business models really based on sustainability. The first one has a business model that could be classified as based on a really stewardship model, and is the case of a cement and mining company, Colacem. This is basically the largest cement company in the Umbria region of Italy. They are the second largest in Italy, and as you can understand, the cement industry and mining industry is an industry where it's very complex to discuss sustainability, because of course production of cement calls for large use of energy, and mining activities have a big impact, a large impact on landscapes. So basically, it's very interesting how this company approached sustainability. This is a family-owned business, and since the beginning they always tried to adopt the best available technologies to reduce the environmental and energetic impacts of the processes of the business activity. Also, they engaged a lot with the local communities so as to provide the support and development of the local community, and they have been the first ones in the industry to start sustainability reporting in 2007, based on the framework of the GRI we previously mentioned in one of the other lectures. What they obtained, their passion for sustainability, their motivation for sustainability is so strong that they really developed innovative solutions, for example, for mining and landscape recovery. These solutions are so good that have been recognized by the Industrial Association of Cement and Mining Companies in Italy as best practices for the industry. So in this case, you see the role of technology, you see the role of innovation in improving the sustainability of your processes and in reducing the impacts of your industrial activity. In terms of managing managing sustainability in their manufacturing plants, again they use a lot of technologies, for example, to monitor performance and to reduce the level of energy consumption. So also it's interesting to see what the company has done in terms of health and safety. That is, of course, a part of the social component of sustainability. This is Colacem is an international company, and they have facilities also abroad. In this case, you can see the picture of on the left side of a facility they purchased in a developing country, and how they basically renovated the infrastructure in order to create a state-of-the-art facility there. So basically, this means you don't you maintain the same approach, the same sustainability vision in all your operations globally. Another interesting company to look at is the case of Cucinelli. Cucinelli is a totally different business model for sustainability. Is basically what is called in literature the case of a social enterprise. Cucinelli is a popular fashion company worldwide, well known for its cashmere products. And basically, since the beginning, the founder has really conceived the business with the purpose of contributing to society and to the development of the local communities. Basically, they implemented a very innovative business model. They pay, in average, they pay suppliers 20% more than the average of the industry, and basically they do this in order to sustain and to develop their network of suppliers. What is interesting is that by acting in this way, basically they are able to really get the best out of their suppliers, the best quality, and this quality is ultimately awarded by the market. So this is very interesting. It's the case of a company that is looking at sustainability not really from an environmental perspective, but from a social perspective, and the resulting business model has proven to be very competitive and really highly profitable from an economic perspective. So here in these two examples, what we saw is companies implementing sustainability. In the case of Colacem, of course, is more connected to environmental problems. In the case of Cucinelli, is more connected to social problems. But in both cases, actions are not disconnected, but are linked to the economic profitability of the business. So this is really implementing the triple bottom line. Of course, sustainability calls for an approach that is as much as integrated as possible.